Roy Pulver, a retired Delta Force operative, wakes up to the same nightmare daily. In Atlanta, his post-Black Ops life takes a deadly turn as a relentless group seeks his demise. The haunting scream of his last night's companion signals the start of a grim routine. Trapped in an unending struggle for survival, Roy confronts a machete-wielding adversary in a relentless loop that repeats 150 times. Swiftly disarming his assailant, Roy's respite is short-lived as a helicopter armed with a heavy machine gun arrives, raining bullets upon his apartment. Roy dispatches the machine gunner with a precisely thrown knife, but the relentless firing continues as bullets rain down on his apartment. Taking refuge beside his couch, Roy reflects on the intricate web of his past. Once happily married to an English woman named Gemma, their paths diverged, leading to separation. During the chaos, Roy vaults from his fourth-floor apartment just before the explosive aftermath of the crashed helicopter consumes it. Descending toward the street, he skillfully avoids a collision with an 18-wheeler, landing deftly on its roof. Roy shares that he has repeated this harrowing fall 22 times, each time narrowly escaping being run over by the truck. Seizing a sports car from the street, he accelerates away from the scene, only to find himself pursued by an unexpected duo, a relentless assassin and her determined chauffeur. As bullets whiz by, Roy elucidates that these assailants have relentlessly attempted to end his life multiple times. The chase unfolds as Roy races through the streets. Roy's tragic demise unfolds once more as he collides with a bus, a grim repetition that occurs day in and day out. Perplexed, Roy remains in the dark about why a relentless horde is determined to end his life. Despite sporadic success in fending them off, an ominous conclusion awaits him each time, the beheading by an enigmatic Asian woman named Guanine. In a desperate attempt to unravel the mystery, Roy reaches out to his former wife, Gemma. To his astonishment, the call is answered not by Gemma, but by retired Colonel Clive Venter, Gemma's superior. The shocking revelation follows. Gemma met her demise the previous night, purportedly from a fall down the stairs in the lab. Skeptical of the official narrative, Roy abruptly ends the call. His skepticism proves justified as two relentless German twin assassins, armed with a formidable weapon, obliterate him once again. Trapped in an unyielding cycle, Roy's search for answers becomes increasingly futile. Seeking solace in a Chinese diner run by Chef Jam, he drowns his sorrows in Chinese liquor. A stern warning from Dave, a counter-surveillance expert, echoes in his ears. Despite Roy's detailed awareness of the events at 11:05 a.m. and encounters with the skilled sword fighter Dai Fong, the loop persists, ending each time at 12:47 p.m. Frustration mounts as Roy grapples with the reality that his beloved Gemma is beyond reach in this relentless cycle of death and intrigue. In the intricate web of temporal repetition, the story unveils a recent reunion between Roy and his estranged wife, Gemma, just before the time loop's inception. Despite a mere day having passed in reality, for Roy it feels like months. Unbeknownst to the couple, their interaction in Gemma's lab falls under the scrutiny of Colonel Clive Venter and security head Brett, monitored by a covert surveillance camera. Gemma introduces a revolutionary device capable of time travel, intertwining their destinies. The narrative unfolds with Roy's resume submission, unknowingly paving the way for a turbulent journey through time and peril as Gemma unveils the complexities of the groundbreaking device. Once alone, Gemma discloses the truth to Roy. The job interview was a fabrication. Instead, she desperately needs his assistance. Without hesitation, Roy commits to helping her, initiating a discussion that unfurls into a tense exchange about their son, Joe. Their discord revolves around whether to unveil to Joe that Roy is his father. Joe, oblivious to this truth, regards Roy as his mother's friend, admiring him. Roy urges Gemma to disclose the reality, while Gemma leans towards secrecy, citing their distant history. The tension escalates as Gemma, in a sudden frenzy, cuts Roy's hair with scissors, causing him to bleed. In the aftermath, Gemma, still agitated, confesses her desire for Roy to embody the qualities of her past love. She whispers, "Osiris," to him, urging an inspection of the birthday present she sent. Roy, escorted out by security, leaves Gemma to face the Colonel's scrutiny led by Brett. In a composed yet subtly probing manner, the Colonel interrogates Gemma. Despite initial attempts at deception, Gemma eventually succumbs to the truth. Concluding the inquiry, the Colonel admonishes her, prohibiting any further visitors in the lab and mandating regular updates. With the dismissal, he allows Gemma to leave, visibly shaken from the encounter. Meanwhile, Roy finds solace in a bar with his date, Alice, a dental hygienist and bartender. During Alice's brief absence, the bartender candidly reveals to Roy that he and Alice will never be in love. Perplexed, Roy inquires, and the bartender explains that it's evident he is still enamored with someone else, evident in his eyes. Suddenly, Roy's phone rings at 3 a.m., and it's Gemma sounding panicked. Urgently, she implores him to help, pleading for him to employ his exceptional skills. Unable to complete her message due to Colonel Clive's eavesdropping on her conversations through a tapped phone, Gemma activates an electronic jammer to thwart further interception. Colonel Clive swiftly reacts, instructing his henchmen to locate Gemma, intensifying surveillance, and directing them to monitor Roy's every move. If Roy becomes a hindrance, the order is clear: eliminate him without mercy. Misinterpreting Gemma's unclear message, Roy dismisses the urgency, ignoring her call and spending the night with Alice at his apartment. However, this choice thrusts him into an unending time loop. In the subsequent loop, Roy opens Gemma's birthday present to discover a book and a message wishing him a happy birthday, urging him to live his life fully, but cautioning that time waits for no one. Motivated by urgency, Roy consistently steals cars in each loop, seeking refuge in an underground gaming compound in Atlanta. His goal: gain extra time to decipher Gemma's intended message before her demise. Encountering Joe in this refuge amplifies the complexity of Roy's temporal plight. Recognizing Joe as his only family, Roy contemplates the challenge of revealing the harsh truth that Gemma is deceased, and he is Joe's father. Over lunch, they step outside, and Roy notices the clock striking 12:50 p.m., surpassing his previous survival threshold. The realization hits: assassins are tracking him. Bullets surround Roy, prompting a sacrificial act to shield his son and reveal the truth. In subsequent loops, determined to break the cycle, Roy meticulously searches the diner for the tracking device. With Dave's help, they expose the tracking device embedded in one of Roy's teeth, placed by Alice under Brett's payment. Facing death for the 145th time, Roy discerns the insidious tracking mechanism. Strategically, he lures each assassin, exploiting the device to eliminate them systematically. Convinced Gemma is likely deceased and set him in this time loop for a purpose, Roy vows to unravel the mystery. Seeking retribution, he dispatches each assassin mercilessly, culminating in a final explosive confrontation that obliterates them. Roy contemplates the purpose behind his trials, resolute in his quest for answers and justice. Taunting Brett as a lapdog, Roy accepts his challenge, devising cunning plans to infiltrate the heavily guarded Dino Lab compound. Exploiting the resemblance of one of his assassins, Roy kills the doppelganger, assuming his identity to enter the lab. The ruse is short-lived, resulting in Roy's discovery and demise. Undeterred, Roy refines his approach in the next loop, stealthily eliminating security guards en route to the lab's penthouse. There, he confronts Gwenine in intense battles across multiple loops. Despite expending significant firepower, Roy is consistently outmatched by her extraordinary sword skills. In a twist of fate, Roy encounters Colonel Clive for the first time, who applauds his combat prowess and reveals the lab's creation, the Osiris Spindle, a time machine. Colonel Clive discloses his ambition to rewrite history, making himself the most powerful figure on the planet before beheading Roy. In his final moments, Roy realizes that Gemma utilized the Osiris Spindle to place him in the time loop, and that the Colonel is culpable for her demise. Fueled by a vow to exact revenge, Roy learns that the Colonel remains oblivious to the Spindle's functionality. Thrilled by Gemma's faith in him as the key to thwarting the Colonel, Roy seeks out Daifong in the diner, determined to disrupt Colonel Clive's plans. Over the next several months, Roy dedicates himself to mastering swordsmanship in each loop, swiftly evolving into a formidable swordsman. When he encounters Gwenine again, he confidently taunts and outplays her in their sword duel. Proving his superior skills, Roy defeats Gwenine with her weapon, before dispatching Brett with the same lethal finesse. With the Colonel spared for a more personal confrontation, Roy challenges him to an unarmed duel. Despite the Colonel's aged appearance, he showcases mastery in hand-to-hand combat. Seizing an opportunity, Roy thwarts the Colonel's attempt to reach for a gun by fatally stabbing him with the sword. As the Colonel acknowledges Roy's advantage due to the activated spindle, he attempts to reason with Roy, proposing a rewriting of history to prevent global tragedies. Rejecting the Colonel's offer, Roy asserts that dwelling on the past is futile. The focus should be on learning from mistakes and shaping a better future. The Colonel scoffs at Roy's perspective, questioning who will protect Joe if Roy eliminates him. Rushing to Joe's location, Roy discovers his son's tragic demise. Overwhelmed by grief, Roy initially ceases his resistance, allowing the assassin to end his life in each subsequent loop. Shedding his depression, Roy resolves to cherish the remaining time with his son. In each loop, they engage in video games and park strolls, forging a connection that transcends temporal constraints. Despite these moments, Each loop culminates in world destruction. Joe's revelation of a recent conversation with his mom challenges Roy's belief in her long-standing demise. Aware of Gemma's existence within the loop, Roy vows to save both her and Joe. Realizing Gemma is alive for 14 minutes after waking, Roy seizes a helicopter, neutralizes the gunner, and directs the pilot to the diner lab. Eliminating assassins and overcoming guards, he reaches Gemma in time, rescuing her from impending peril. Swiftly neutralizing the colonel and his henchmen, Roy surprises Gemma with his successful intervention. Relieved and amazed, Gemma discovers Roy not only rescued her, but overcame every obstacle. Having shared intimate moments with Joe through countless loops, Roy discloses secrets Joe entrusted to him, previously withheld from his mom. Seeking a solution to stop the spindle, Roy turns to Gemma. However, Gemma reveals the concept's hypothetical nature and suggests Roy walking into it may reset everything, posing a risk of his non-existence. Undeterred by the potential danger, driven by a determination to protect Joe and Gemma, Roy resolves to take the risk. Before departing, they share a poignant kiss, expressing their love for each other. As they part ways, Gemma reassures Roy that she will wait for him. Braving the unknown, Roy walks into the spindle. Miraculously, his eye colors begin to change, stunning Gemma. Against all odds, Roy survives the spindle, sacrificing himself 300 times to halt its destructive influence. In doing so, he emerges as the Osiris, saving his son, the woman he loves, and the entire world from the spindle's ominous grip.